This is Lijishri from the Ashok Leland School, Hosur, presenting you the topic of nervous system under the chapter Control and Coordination for Grade 10. At the end of this unit, students will be able to explain the role of the brain and spinal cord in doing various activities and related to their daily life. Students will be able to draw or create a model of neuron and neural pathway and investigate the nervous disorders and its cause. Let's take a look at some of our day-to-day activities. You are in your class taking the notes given by the teacher. It's about lunchtime. You think about your favorite food, and the next moment you start salivating. Two actions were performed here. First is writing, which is a voluntary action. You hear the auditory information, process it, and then write. In the second case, the thought of the food is processed in your brain and it causes salivation in your mouth. Both the actions were controlled by the nervous system. What does the nervous system comprise of? It includes two subdivisions, the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. The central nervous system lies in the center of the body and it includes brain, spinal cord and the spinal nerve, while the peripheral nervous system lies along the sides of the body and it includes all the nerves outside the central nervous system. Nervous system is made up of neural tissue, which in turn are made up of neurons. Neurons form the structural and the functional unit of nervous system. These are electrically excitable cells. Upon receiving any stimulus or change in the chemical environment, these cells generate electrical impulse. Now let's look at the structure of the neuron. Neuron has three parts: the cell body, dendrite, and the axon. The cell body contains nucleus and other organelles like Golgi and the mitochondria, which helps them to do their function. Next is the branched part called the dendrite, which receives the information. The dendrites continue into long, thin projection called axon. Axon has a highly branched ending called axon terminal. The space between adjacent neurons is called synapse. The neurons help in sending the information to the brain or spinal cord. What are these informations that are passed? Informations are obtained from the surrounding. Let's see an example. You are asked to identify the food kept in a plate blindfoldedly. How will you identify? You will use your nose, taste, and touch and feel the food. The smell of the food, the taste of the food, and the feel of the food is the information that you need to send to the brain in order to identify the food. These information are collected with the help of receptors present in the sensory organs. For example, the gustatory receptor in the tongue collects the taste of the food and the olfactory receptor in the nose collects the information about the smell of the food. How are the informations transmitted? The receptors have nerves in it. The dendrites collect the information, creating chemical changes resulting in the generation of electrical signals. The electrical impulses move via axon to the axon terminal. The axon terminal has synaptic vesicles containing neurotransmitters. Once the electrical signal reaches the terminal, chemical transmitters are released out. These chemicals then bind with the receptor of the adjacent neuron and cause an electrical impulse to be generated. This continues until it reaches the brain or spinal cord. Not all our actions are performed voluntarily. Some actions happen instantly, like taking off your hand from the hot plate when you accidentally touch it. It's a reflex action. The reflex actions are involuntary and happens quickly. Reflex actions can be natural or learned. Example for a natural reflex includes blinking your eyes when some insects or something sharp comes near it. Learned reflexes are developed after repeated action or practice. Example for learned reflex includes balancing the bike when you skid off suddenly and the responses that we give during swimming or skiing, etc. How do these reflex actions happen so quickly? It is because the impulses do not travel all the way till brain. It is integrated in the spinal cord. For example, when we touch a hot plate, the receptor present in the skin of the finger picks up the stimulus, sends it to the afferent neuron, which then travels to the spinal cord, where the information is processed and integrated. From the spinal cord, it travels through the efferent neuron and reaches the effector muscle present in the hand, which causes the arm to be pulled back quickly. This pathway is called reflex arc. Not all our actions are reflex actions. We are thinking beings, and hence, most of our actions need the help of a central processing unit. The brain is our central processing unit. Though it is about only 2% of our total body weight, it is the most complex organ with about 100 billion neurons. Hence, it is kept safe by a protective covering called cranium. The cranium is filled with cerebrospinal fluid, which acts like a shock absorber. The human brain consists of three parts: the forebrain, midbrain, and the hindbrain, each with designated functions. Let's look at them one by one. The forebrain is the largest part of the brain with four lobes. Each lobes are designated with the processing of sensory information. It is the thinking part of the brain, the center for problem solving, language, communication, and voluntary movement. The forebrain is also the center for sensations like hunger and fullness. Next is the midbrain. It is the smallest region lying below the cerebrum and above the hindbrain. It comprises the hypothalamus, thalamus, and pituitary gland. The hypothalamus regulates the pituitary gland and it controls sleep, appetite, body temperature, etc. The midbrain controls body movement and acts as a relay station for visual and auditory systems. The hindbrain consists of cerebellum, medulla, and pons. Cerebellum is known as little brain and helps in regulation and coordination of movement, posture, balance, and cardiac, respiratory, and vasomotor centers. The medulla controls the involuntary actions like breathing, swallowing, blood pressure, etc. Remember, all involuntary actions are not reflex, hence, they are integrated and controlled by the brain parts. As a part of the extended learning activity, I have enlisted four activities that the students can do at the end of the topic. First is a case study. Students can analyze the case and list the divisions of the nervous system involved in performing each actions given. As a second activity, the students will make a chart of his or her daily activities and relate it to the nervous system involved. As a third activity, the students will investigate on some disorders caused due to injury to the nervous system and make a presentation about it. And in the fourth activity, students will make a model showing a neural pathway using ICT tools or clay.